Oh man, holy cow. That thing. Yes. That fish was mad. Oh my gosh. Holy cow. He annihilated that thing. Wow, that was a fun bite. Oh my gosh, right on the laydown, right where you're supposed to be. Cool. Man. Perfect, spinnerbait's ready to go. Let me get back in there. Boy, this has got to be one of my all-time favorite times of the year. It's springtime in the Midwest. Water's warming up. Started to get some 60-degree days, some sun, and the bass are coming out of winter. They've had a sheet of ice over their head all winter, and they're ready to warm up and eat, and getting into pre-spawn. So the general idea that's worked for me, at least, is you go to the north end of the lake. A little isolated bay like this is going to be the warmest spot on the lake, and it's been quite evident. It's about 4 or 5 degrees warmer than the main lake. The fish flock in here, the panfish are in here, the crappies, everything, and the bass. And you get a real sunny day like this, the water's warming up. It's really hard to beat a spinnerbait. It's a really simple, classic lure, but boy, what other lure is so versatile, you know? You don't need to be bumping bottom. It comes through wood really well, comes through grass really well. And there's a window in the spring when, yeah, chatterbaits and vibrating jigs and square bills work really well, but there are days when you cannot beat a spinnerbait. And I'm pretty sure that today is one of those days. There's something to be said about where you're gonna get your bites. A lot of times you can start developing a pattern. You know, there'll be days when the fish seem to be relating to grass. Maybe the grass is tight to the shore, maybe it's off the shore, certain depth, or maybe they're on wood. And if they're on wood, are they on the deep side of the wood or the shallow side or the middle? You just pay attention to where you get your bites, and after a couple hours of fishing, you get a number of bites, you start developing a pattern. And once you've got a pattern, you can start eliminating water and focusing your casts and your efforts in the highest percentage spots where most of your bites have been coming. And that's gonna help you catch more fish throughout the day, whether you're fishing a tournament or just out for fun or just fishing in general. We all wanna catch more and bigger fish. So keying in on where you get those bites is something to really pay attention to. Yeah, some of your best springtime spots are gonna be very target centric. There's a lot of targets to cast at, trees and logs. And I'm just going along kind of casting at everything. And that's why a spinnerbait is such a good tool, because it's such an effective lure, you know, in a variety of situations, and it triggers fish. And it's just at this water temperature. And the colder the water, often guys will go with more of a Colorado blade. And this, I've got a Colorado blade, and they're biting that too, but this is a really big willow, and it gives it a lot of lift, and it's just kind of slowly kind of cruising by, not too fast, hanging in their face, and they just can't take it when the water's basically in the 50s. We're getting to the high 50s today with the sun, but a lot of commotion in here. There's a pile of bait. I mean, like, it seems like every fish in the lake is in this north part of the lake, which can basically happen when you have these major warm-up periods. Typically, I don't know if I'm speaking out of line, but normally they're pretty aggressive, so you can kind of keep moving along at a pretty good clip until you start getting bit. The spinnerbaits, like a jig, is something you typically put a trailer on. And this is a joystick, kind of like a stick bait with a couple of rabbit ears off the back and just kind of a split tail look. Like, gives it a little extra lift and buoyancy, a little teaser. Just kind of a standard deal, kind of like putting a craw or a chunk on your jigs. This setup, I have straight 17-pound fluoro, Suffix Advance, and it is really nice line. Have to admit, very castable, low memory, real tough, good stuff. This is a 7.6 medium heavy. I personally like a little bit bigger, longer rods. I'm doing a lot of target casting. I'd probably prefer a slightly shorter one, maybe a 7.2, but it's kind of a personal preference deal, but good medium heavy. You want a parabolic action to the rod, so when the fish bites, it kind of loads the rod up a bit and you kind of lean into them and they're on. You don't want to, if you have too stiff of a rod and you feel that bite, you set the hook like a jig or something, you'll actually pull it out of their mouth a lot of times. So having a little bit of nice tip to the rod, medium heavy, 7.5 foot. This is 17-pound fluorocarbon. It's a Suffix Advanced Fluoro. It's super nice, low memory, heavy duty stuff. The reel is a 6.6 to 1. That's what it works for me. It's a personal preference, I guess, ultimately with rod and reel, but I don't want to reel this real fast right now. We're in the springtime, water's warming, but eventually when the water is warm, or maybe there's smallmouth applications where you want a faster reel, that's definitely something to consider. But as far as this springtime spinnerbait fishing, I'm throwing either a Colorado blade that's got a lot of lift and a lot of thump, or this is a willow. The water is warming. We're getting up into the mid and upper 50s. This is a large willow blade that we have on this particular model, and it gives this bait quite a bit of lift. And you put a trailer on there, and I just kind of want to float it around through some of these laydowns, and anything I see, anything I throw at, I'm not burning this really fast, but as the water continues to warm, your retrieve will just start to pick up and you'll go faster and faster. But for now, cold water, dirty water, more of a thump, a bigger willow or a Colorado blade seems to work better. Just kind of slow rolling it around anything and everything I see. Kind of start picking out where the fish are going to be and develop a pattern. Got him. There we go. Oh man, I think this is a pretty nice one. That's a nice healthy one. Oh yeah. There we go. Cool. Right on that lay down, right where he was supposed to be. A pretty dark fish. Sometimes you can kind of tell if they're real pale. They've often just slid up from deep water. This guy's got some good color, so he's probably been hanging out in the sun all day, if not longer. Gosh, it is fun when they crush a spinnerbait like that. Holy cow. So make sure you're holding onto your rod tight. Oh. All right, man. It's so fun. Springtime, spinnerbait, throwing at anything and everything you see. It's as fun as it gets, if you ask me. You know, spinnerbait can be extremely simple. You know, I'll tie one on my 7-year-old's rod and he'll just reel it in straight and he'll catch fish. But if you put a little action in your spinnerbait, just like a jig or, you know, anything you're swimming along, you're reeling it straight and then you kind of just pause it or pull it or pop it, just something to flare it, you know, kind of like when a crankbait hits a stump or a rock or your spinnerbait hits cover. That's usually when you get a bite. So you're causing that fish to react and bite it. So I'm just constantly imparting action on the bait by just popping it. And once you've done it long enough, and it's just natural, that's just how you fish the bait. And I've been around enough pros and read enough articles and wire to fish videos to know that it works. So it's definitely something to think about when you're fishing a spinnerbait, is give it some extra action and you will definitely catch some extra fish. Got him. There we go. Not a big one. He just kind of came up. Yeah. Another bite. He didn't crush it like those other ones, but a bass is a bass, and I'll take them. You know, it's worth knowing that fish wasn't big, but I made a half-hearted cast and realized I came short of a log, so I just made another cast, just like 2 feet further. Sure enough, there's a bite. So when you are kind of target casting, you want to make sure, you know, you're making a good cast and covering that piece of cover with a good cast and getting as close and tight to it as you can. It'll make a big difference. You'll catch more fish, and if you're fishing behind, you know, people have fished here before you, so you want to really pick it apart. Like, look at this shoreline. I mean, you could just sit here for 10 minutes and just cast at every little thing, but trying to cover water, stay moving. And this time of the year, in the spring, when things are warming, typically if you get a bite, there's often more fish around. You're in the right area, so you want to spend a little bit of time there. But if you're not getting bites, you want to just kind of keep moving until you contact some fish, which is kind of the general MO for fishing year-round, but especially in the spring, because a lot of times the fish are not everywhere. They're in very specific areas because they're moving towards spawning areas. Got him. There's a good one. Got him. All right. Oh yeah. Oh, this fish is strong. Oh, there we go. Yeah, another nice one. Man, just one isolated bush. There he is. Very cool. A little lipstick on him. Man, springtime is spinnerbait time.